Welcome to Let's Talk Evolution, the podcast where real life experience meets the complexities of today's tech industry. Each episode, we dive into a specific topic with thought leaders who know the systems, the structures, and the nuances that drive the industry. This series is all about unpacking the inner workings of tech and learning from the people who understand it best. I'm Danelle from Evolution Recruitment Solutions, and today I am your host. In this episode, we're unpacking how traditional industries are embracing AI and what it really takes to move from data to deployment. From retail and manufacturing to mining and logistics, many long-established sectors are now exploring how to modernize through AI, but are facing challenges in scaling, data readiness, and workforce adoption. Joining us today is Jin Lee, co-founder of TicTag, a company that began with crowdsourced data annotation and has since evolved into delivering cutting-edge AI solutions for businesses across Asia. Jin has led teams that bridge the gap between data science and real-world application, helping traditional industries adopt AI responsibly and effectively. Jin, welcome to the show. And before we dive in, could you share a quick introduction about yourself and your journey with TicTag?
Definitely, yeah. So my name is Jin. I've co-founded TicTag. Right now, we are a Series A company. So when we first started, it was during the pandemic period. And prior to that, I was an employee, one of the first few employees in an AI startup called Tiger. That's where I met my co-founders. And we figured out that there were a lot of issues back then in 2017, 2018, regarding data completeness, right? And we had a lot of issues deploying AI solutions in enterprises as well as like government agencies. And most of the time, it's because data preparation can be very expensive. It can also be very, you will spend a lot of time as well as like manpower intensive, right? So that's where we figured that why not use a crowdsourced method to build up an app and do a double bottom line kind of an initiative, right? A startup that also gives back to society. We figured that like most of the time, if we go for just purely on revenue, it may not be very fulfilling for us, at least for us. So that's where we wanted to bring in the society, right? To people from different backgrounds, people with disabilities, minority groups, right? That they can actually work on these data preparation tasks and get paid for it, right? In different forms. It could be NTUC vouchers. It could also be a MacBook. Now, slowly as we progress and as we get more funding, our customers are starting to ask, "Oh wow, you're preparing all this data for us, but can you also do the AI?" Right? We heard so much of it, 2022, where ChatGPT first popped up. That the level of understanding of AI has increased tremendously. So clients are also asking, okay, if you can do that for us, I think that would be great. We don't need to worry so much about like doing it ourselves, right? So that's where we move downstream to start to deploy AI solutions for different types of clients. And right now, where we are is in fact in those traditional businesses as well as like some of these tech companies that have the idea but do not have the expertise to work together with us to actually deploy those solutions in their companies and in their value chain, right, in their entire process flow. So yeah, that's a little bit of a brief of where we are and in terms of like how do we start it up. Yeah.
All right, thanks for the introduction, Jin. I think we spoke about it before, and I really love what your company is doing, not just impacting AI, but for a society standpoint. With that, we'll just dive straight into the first question, and that is, like many traditional industries are like turning to AI for transformation. From your experience, what are challenges and opportunities that you see when deploying AI in these sectors?
Right. In fact, I would say for the very first industry that I would like to share is retail. So traditionally, we've been hearing like video analytics platforms, right? Video analytics in 2017, 2015, 2020, like different phases of like technological improvements that happen over the years. But I think the past 2 years has been really crazy in terms of development-wise, hardware, software, as well as AI. So a lot of times I think it's the general knowledge and understanding of like what do we do, right? How do we do it? And why do we even do it? Because these three questions very often confuse some of these retailers. They'll be thinking, okay, if you push out a bunch of data to me, right? What can I actually do with it? How do I make sense of it? how do I explain it to my manager or my boss and say that, oh, I'm increasing revenue because I did certain things or changes like in a brick and mortar setting. But with the current technology that we have, like for example, TicTag Insight, it allows us to actually provide hypotheses as well as like what an understanding of not just from our point of view, but an expert AI point of view, right? And to share with them like, okay, these are the 3, 4 things that you can try. Shift the product to the left, product A, you can actually put a POSM there, like point of sales marketing, redirect them to level 2 as an example, right? So this is the kind of education actually we have to do back then in 2017, 2018. But right now, I think it's progressively getting better. Most of them understands what AI can actually do for them, but implementing typically is a problem. So that's where we come in to assist them, help them analyze it right end to end. They don't have to do anything, but just wait for the instructions that come out from the analysis that's done after it's set up in for example their stores, right? So yeah, typically I'll say this specifically for the retail industry is very, very apparent.
And you've been running this since 2017. Do you think the adoption is a bit more, I guess, they're more ready for adoption now? I would assume that it's a bit easier to kind of like build AI with companies this year than it was back then, right?
100%. I think really right. So in 2017, 2018, first of all, the hardware wasn't great, right? Like well, we talked about machine learning back then. So we were running on CPUs, and believe it or not, right, when I was running one of these like deep learning models, it was like running for 3 days. That could have been done like in like 20 minutes in 2 days time.
yeah.
So
makes sense.
Just purely on that, right? Like I think it changes a lot of things, right? Now I can run like 5 or 6 concurrently. And back then they even have things like say, okay, I need to test out 3 or 4 models to see which one is the best, and then I'll implement it for the client. But now you can just like concurrently test like 10. And furthermore, right, you have all the tech giants that are competing against each other. So for example, yesterday's conversation, we're talking about like Gemini 3 coming out, but we just heard ChatGPT like releasing GPT 4, 5, right? Yeah, so it's crazy because everybody's competing against each other. There's this like AI arms race. So it's just benefiting everyone else, and democratizing like AI as a whole, and how we actually implement it and use it, really makes a lot of difference. It's pretty much like a green field at this point. I think it's to me it's a little bit like the early age, like early stage of like the crypto days, right? Or even like like the internet boom. But this time around, it's about how do we implement it right in our business processes and derive the value from the AI solutions. Yeah, and how we execute it. That's the most important part.
Yeah, and your company also started like from the beginning, so you've seen through the whole entire rise of AI, and now you're here. So that brings on to our next question, right? I mean, your company started with crowdsourced data annotations before moving into AI solutions, which I think was quite a natural move. What lessons have you learned from that journey?
So, in fact, AI solutions, the first term, right? AI first appeared. I still remember when I was back then in a panel discussion in 2017. We were comparing it like waves of like just the terminology changing over the years, right? Since 1970s, and back then, even the term AI is talking about like robotics, right? Robotic arms, etc., etc. So, through this period of time, we understand that tech waves happens like every 5 years, 6 years, right? There will always be something that's hyped up, and then there will be a very big technological curve where we see mass adoption and early adopters and moving into a mass adoption, and then late adopters, right? So during this entire phase, I realized a lot of times when we are pushing something out that's very early adopter, typically we are influencing the tech teams, right? And to assist the tech teams. But when it moves on into mass adoption stage of, for example, right now, which is AI, anybody can do AI, but it becomes more of like how much of an expertise do you have and velocity as a company to bring these solutions to work together, right? To bring value out of it, right? And create value out of it. That's a lot more important for example, a retailer that knows nothing other than selling, basic stuff, right? That's their day-to-day bread and butter. But how do we actually give them that additional value? I think that's very important because they roughly have that understanding of like what AI is right now, and can explain it to their stakeholders, but they can also figure out how can it have AI bring the benefits for themselves as well, right? Like increasing revenue or reducing costs. Yeah. So more importantly, even smaller players during this period of time, we also do see them taking this as a chance to overtake the tech giants or like the number one in their field. So we see a lot more for both waves that have been through in the two AI waves. The second, usually those that are ranking second and third, they tend to be hungrier, and they use this as an opportunity for them to leapfrog the market leader. Yeah, so then that's where they are a little bit hungrier and say, okay, come, let's see what we can do, right? And implement something that we can leapfrog the competitor, the main market leader. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think that moving on to the next question, I think one thing you mentioned in our conversation previously, right, is that stood out to me was that your claim of achieving accuracy levels of up to 99.97%. I think that's a pretty bold number, especially considering that your data labeling is done through, large distributed communities of taggers. That being said, right, how do you ensure like quality and accuracy and fairness when working in such a large and diverse data set?
So just to give a little bit more context, right? We deal with 4 types of data: image, audio, video, and text. This number came about when it was a really, really challenging client from Korea asking us to do annotation of image of 40,000 images in a very short period of time. Now, the thing is, the general sensing and understanding of crowdsourcing is, okay, quality may not be there, like it's not that great. It can be like anybody can join, anybody can work on it, and you typically pick up 1 to 2% of the work, right, in that sense. Or even like games, right? They monetize from the 1 to 2%. It's the same concept. But in our case, we put gamification into the system, right? As well as like the ease of use for the features itself. And to make it even more challenging, when we talked about bringing people with disabilities, as well as like with different abilities to work on technical work, like drawing a box around certain things, or you have to draw a bounding box around like the apple and keep it as tightly bounded as you can. Any small mistakes will be rejected by the client, right? And you don't want AI to be misinterpreting like a old lady crossing the road to be a lamppost. And that can have dire situations, right, where you have like autonomous vehicle doing things that you don't want them to do. So we put multiple layers, right? So for the first group of users, that we can call them level 1, they'll be building up one layer of like the work, right? Now, to make this a little bit more secure, even in banks, we have like maker and checker rule. One person doing the thing, another one doing the checking. So it's like a 4-eye check. We put in a second layer, right? So another group of users do it another time, right? And then finally, as they progressively work on an app, they actually get level up to like level 2, level 3. So they're the more expert QC kind of like users on our app. Typically, when we do QC, it could be sampling just to save money. But because it's a crowdsourced methodology, we can afford to actually run through another entire pass, 100% pass, right? Just to look through everything again, to do 3 times, to do 4 times, to do 5 times of that pass and get consensus in that sense. Not just consensus, but also to check and pick up the mistakes that were made, right? If there are mistakes made, actually they do not actually get the reward, right? So they get penalized, right? A little bit of like carrot and stick. So if they do well, they actually progress to a higher level, right? So there's that gamification mechanism built in place to govern the entire ecosystem of doing good work. If you do good work, you get rewarded more. So that itself becomes a methodology and way that helped us with generating very high level of accuracy for the data. And because good data means good AI, that also helped our clients as well as ourselves to produce really good AI solutions.
Amazing. And just for our listeners out there, I mean, is this I guess gamification or this app available for everyone globally, or is it just for APAC?
Right now, it's just for APAC. So we release it. The main reason for that is because we went viral at one point in time, and I mean, as a small startup back then, we didn't understood how to control when things go viral, right? And it starts to go a bit out of control. Too many users, right? And then
It's not a bad thing, though.
So we started to restrict, right? Like Play Store, App Store. Okay, we only say, okay, we turn on like Vietnam. Okay, so Vietnam now is available to Vietnam, right? Indonesia is available in Indonesia. So that's our way of making sure that as we iterate our product, we still can make sure that they can enjoy the user experience.
Understand. Okay. All right. So that brings us to our last question. I think this is normally around people, which I do love, and we are supporting the recruitment side of things. So on the people side, right, like what are hiring strategies that you've worked best for building global AI teams? I think particularly in markets like Indonesia, which you mentioned that you're operating in, Vietnam and Singapore.
Right. So right now, as a company that's growing, which is VC funded, typically we look out for talents within the region. And very specifically, there's the number one thing that is across all our interview stage will be the communication, right? I think as a Singapore company, generally speaking, we use English in our day-to-day communication. So our number one criteria, especially for Indonesia, Vietnam, and the rest of the other countries, we have made it a point to make sure that through the multiple rounds of interviews, we can have a understandable conversation. We're not expecting them to be really perfect, right? But at the same time, the candidates should be able to use like the subtitling, like features that's there on Gmeets, able to write well, able to interpret the questions and give an answer, and that is our first criteria, right? But the second and the third one will be my own experience that, like, generally speaking, many talents are out there in the region beyond Singapore. So we do see the hunger as well as like the urge to learn. I think that's really important for candidates when they are coming into this space. Every other week we see new things appearing, but how fast can you adapt and catch up to the latest technology and be able to converse with the clients for 5 minutes about AI on the latest technology and the latest updates of what's happening in the world? I think that's important to me, to be in this industry. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for sharing. And that's a wrap for this episode of Let's Talk Evolution. A big thank you to Jin for sharing his insights on how AI is reshaping traditional industries, from data foundations to real-world deployment. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with your network. And we've got more conversations coming your way with the people shaping the future from the tech inside out. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Danielle from Evolution, and I'll see you next time on Let's Talk Evolution.